Right now, a huge number of people will be experiencing a major existential crisis. Until recently, their entire world had been orientated around their God. Their meaning, their purpose, their hope was all derived solely from their religion. But now, they contemplate life-shattering ideas. What if they are just molecules in motion? Yet another animal that will decompose and be forgotten about within only years of their inevitable death. Just thinking about these ideas and questions can be perplexing and painful. It leads some people to post comments on my videos such as, "So what's the point of life? Like, are we here to die and be nothing or what? If this is all the life, then is it worth living? So if not believing in even any God, what's the purpose to life then? Why am I even here? I could just kill myself and then all of this ends. Why don't atheists kill themselves? If life has no purpose and meaning, then what's the point of life?" As a Jehovah's Witness, I would have fully agreed, perhaps not with the specific wording, but with the sentiment behind these comments. However, as an atheist, I now view them as childish, as narcissistic, as highly irrational. See, if you were raised in a secular household, you would have never had a higher purpose inserted into your worldview. You'd have likely been encouraged to be your authentic self, to potentially embrace your desires and to chase your dreams. But if you were raised in a high control group or by highly devout religious parents, the question often isn't, what do you want to be? But rather, what does God want you to be? I was told from a young age that God did not want me to become a professional footballer, and so I didn't even go down the path. I stopped playing as my dad suggested at the age of 14. A few years later, I was told that God did not want me to go to university. That would lead me into a mixture of worldly association. Why would I want to spend the last few years before Armageddon trying to get letters after my own name? What God wanted me to do was to devote 70 hours each month to my ministry and to present, hopefully, faith-strengthening talks to the congregation. What religion does so successfully, especially ones of a high-control nature like Jehovah's Witnesses, is inculcate and indoctrinate youngsters until they are completely dependent upon the religion, like a newborn baby is on breast milk. As long as you keep suckling at what you perceive to be the teat of God, which by the way is a great band name if you're trying to think of one, you will never have to confront some of life's most hard-hitting philosophical questions, such as, why am I here? Does my life have purpose and meaning? You are told that because you are part of the one true religion, your life is significant. God, Jesus, the angels, Satan, the demons are all watching you, and your conduct and behaviour determines whether they are pleased or disappointed, whether you are helping to prove Satan a liar, whether you are advocating your support of God's universal sovereignty. Significant. You and your family, if you obey the rules of the religion, get to live in the proximity of God in heaven or ruled by Him in Christ Jesus on a paradise earth. Significant. From birth, you are drip-fed the ego-building narrative that your life is significant. But the primary reason this channel is called The Truth Hurts is because when I embraced my doubts, when I transitioned to basing my beliefs on evidence over emotion, I realised that my existence was truly insignificant. That I was a walking, talking, averagely intelligent ape. There was no objective meaning or purpose. There was no grand hope for our species. I wouldn't get to dwell forever on a paradise earth or see my dead relatives again. Now, needless to say, in the wake of these sort of realizations, I was left feeling hollow, empty, and dissatisfied. Some people get depressed, even contemplating suicide. And so, in part, I can empathize with these sort of comments. Why then did I say that these questions were irrational? Well, irrespective of which branch of major monotheism, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, theists are united in the fact that they view this life as the disappointing but necessary starter that they must consume in order to be rewarded by God, the Michelin-starred chef, with a heavenly main course. Atheists, on the other hand, view this life as the main course. Sure, some of it is unpleasant, some of it's bitter, but other parts are delicious and euphoric. And therefore, most atheists I know cherish each and every mouthful of the course because it's the only one they know they're going to get. As Ricky Gervais said, atheists have nothing to die for, but everything to live for. Now, not for a second am I saying that we should ask religious or non-religious people, why don't you kill yourself? But if I had to fire that question into one of the two groups, to me it would seem far more rational and justified to ask theists, well, why don't you just skip your starter and go straight to the main course? Now, as a former self-proclaimed Christian, I'm aware that the majority of theists would say, suicide shows a blatant disregard for God's gift of life, and therefore I couldn't do it. I would respond by saying, let's hypothetically say that the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, depending on which branch of monotheism, said, if thou hateth this life and seeketh to end it, permissible it be in the sight of the Lord to kill thyself. Would you do it? I know that the majority of theists wouldn't. But why? Because whether they like to admit it or not, significant self-harm or suicide is completely counterintuitive to our survival and reproduction as animals. Just watch a film such as 127 Hours, based on the true story of a man named Aaron Ralston, who went out hiking and got his right arm caught between a boulder and part of a cliff or something, and was forced to amputate part of his own arm. The way we feel while watching that, it is just feeling someone else's pain and contemplating us doing that, let alone contemplating us taking our own life. Some believers would say, no. If I could, then I would. But you see, the problem is, I have a partner and I have children, so I couldn't do that to them. Now, unknowingly, at that point, the theist would acknowledge and recognize the fact that forming relationships, propagating our genes through reproduction, and then taking care of our family, our children, ensuring their survival and the passing on of our genetics, is of utmost importance. Not just in a way of deriving meaning and purpose to our species, but to many others. And it has nothing to do with a god or gods. When you reflect and dissect your own life, your family's lives, you will see that this becomes abundantly clear. Take, for example, my mother. Once my brother and I left school and moved on with our lives, she lost all sense of meaning and purpose. Her alcoholism plummeted to unparalleled levels that she would never recover from. In my own life, as a Jehovah's Witness in my early 20s, religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, the ministry, the meetings, what was at one point at the forefront of my life and my mind took a back seat when I started dating my wife. My focus completely shifted. My meaning and purpose became developing a relationship and making her happy. Think of some of the most memorable and meaningful personal experiences in your life. You may say, well, April the 8th, 2012, the day I got baptised. Don't worry, no one from your church is here. You can be honest. The most meaningful personal experiences someone goes through aren't objective, nor do they have heavenly repercussions. Whether it be a once-in-a-lifetime holiday with your friends when you're younger, a first kiss with your true love, or the birth of your first child. These experiences are subjective, they are short-lived, they are fleeting, but that's precisely what makes them so precious to you. You're not proving Satan a liar. You're not advocating your support of God in the battle for universal sovereignty. You're not solving world hunger or creating a free, unlimited, abundant source of energy to serve the planet. You are living, just like every other animal. And so when someone says, if this is all the life, then is it worth living? In effect, what they are asking is, if this life is only temporary, what's the point? Now, to highlight how absurd that question is, imagine going up to a homeless man and offering him £80. He takes the money, he looks at it, and he throws it in your face. And he says, £80. I either want billions of pounds or nothing. You wouldn't know what to say. You'd be completely shocked. You'd think he was entirely delusional. And yet that is exactly the same as someone who says, on average, 80 to 100 years, 80 measly years on this planet? What's the point? I either want billions and billions of years with God in his immense presence in the heavens, or nothing. Perhaps you realise how illogical and irrational these sorts of points are. Perhaps you're newly encountering atheism as a thought concept for the first time, and you're wondering, I have a hole left in me by religion. And I'm wondering, will it ever be filled? The answer to that question comes from an unlikely source. It's a series called Vikings, Series 4, and it's a conversation between English monarch King Egbert and Viking raider Ragnar Lothbrok. They're talking about atheism, but what is it that equates for this disparate contrast in perspective?
What if your God does not exist?
My dear friend, what are you talking about?
Your God? My gods. What if they don't exist?
Well, if God or the gods don't exist, then nothing has meaning.
Or everything has meaning.
What on earth does that mean?
What do you need? Your God.
Well, if there were no gods, then anyone could do anything and nothing would matter. You could do as you liked and nothing would be real and nothing would have meaning or value.
If they don't exist, then they don't exist. We have to live with it.
The reason I love that clip so much is because it provides a very realistic insight into two different stages of contemplating an atheistic worldview. On the one hand, you had this English monarch, King Egbert, who probably had never considered this before, and so he was thrust straight into an existential crisis. He said, if the gods don't exist, then nothing would be real or have meaning or value. And yet, on the other hand, you have Ragnar Lothbrok, someone who, according to the series, had considerable time to be able to contemplate the permutations of atheism in his life. And his response was, or everything has meaning. Now, I wouldn't say that Egbert was wrong and that Ragnar was right or vice versa. I would just say that they were at different stages in their journey. A journey that begins at nihilism, at coming face to face with the uncomfortable truth. The crashing and burning of lofty, anthropocentric religious beliefs, and being hit round the back of the head by a cold, hard smack of reality. It's only once we become used to that and comfortable with it can we then begin to build subjective meaning and purpose into our lives. What form does this usually manifest itself in? I would say hope. By getting this new job, I hope I can provide more adequately for my family. By donating to that charity, I hope it will benefit those animals or those people. By reducing my carbon footprint, I hope that we won't destroy the planet. By producing this YouTube video, I hope it will potentially benefit 1 or 2 people. When you analyse the lives of many non-religious people, it becomes clear that they derive meaning and purpose in the hope that their behaviour and work is benefiting others. 1 Corinthians 13:11 states, "When I was a child, I used to speak as a child, to think as a child, to reason as a child. But now that I have become a man, I have done away with the traits of a child." Without a doubt, a childish trait of our species was the superstition that there must exist a higher purpose beyond ourselves. But once we've escaped that superstition, once we've emancipated ourselves from the chains of religious thinking, we can then become accustomed at saying, "I don't know, and I don't need to know." All we know with any certainty is that against almost infinitesimal odds, almost incalculable odds, we are here. And that should fill us with far more awe, humility, and appreciation than we ever had for life as believers. We look out at an expanding universe, at nothingness with no apparent meaning, and the sheer pointlessness of life on our planet. But that pointlessness to life isn't something to be overcome. It is to be celebrated and embraced. A meaningless universe doesn't mean that we live our lives without meaning, for it enables us to create our own.